versus Khabib on Saturday night.
Oh man, I gotta tell you, I saw the conferences, the news conferences coming up to the big fight, and I was like, I don't know if I'm going to get it or not, But the closer it got to the fight, I said, you know what, I'm going to go ahead. I'm either going to go to a sports bar or either I'll buy it at home. And man, let me tell you, I bought that fight, and
money's worth.
Man, it was at first it was kind of in between on whether it was worth it or not.
Yeah.
Until the brawl broke out.
Yeah, then it was all worth it.
Oh man, I was up out of my seat. I couldn't believe what I was looking at because I'm sitting there. There were a couple good pre-fights, a couple interesting fights, but Conor comes out and they start the fight. You know all what happened. Conor was good on his feet. He wasn't good on the ground. Apparently, this guy's like a boa constrictor. He just he holds you down. I
saw a video where they had him wrestling bears as like an 8-year-old.
Son, let me tell you something. He holds you down on the ground, and you know how you try to get up, you pull your legs up to try to stand up? He wraps himself around your legs and makes your legs extend so you can't even bend your knees to stand up. So that's what happened. Conor, they said he did better than most in defending himself and not getting like choked out immediately because most people don't last. But he just really couldn't get up off the ground.
This was, I watched a couple of UFC fights. They usually go pretty quick. I watched this fight. And it was very entertaining. But you know what I always say about UFC people, right? Like
what?
UFC dudes are so they're they don't really stand out. It's that's why when you walk the streets, you got to be nice to everybody.
You would never know.
Because you would never know.
It'd be a little skinny dude, 140 pounds.
How much does he weigh?
Will mop you up.
What's his weight?
I got to look to see.
He's got to be 140, 145, 150.
He's not huge at all.
He would take me 215 pounds.
Yeah.
And have me pretzeled.
Yeah.
In 7 seconds.
Broken ankle.
Embarrassed.
Choked out.
Embarrassed.
KO. Done. Over with.
Left.
No time flat.
In the fetal position, crying, telling everybody to leave me alone.
He's got it on right here. So the other interesting thing, okay, so at the end of this, he chokes him, didn't want to let go of the chokehold. The ref breaks it up. He throws his mouthpiece. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. So by this time, I'm looking, and they go back to Conor. They're showing him on the other side. I'm like, man, Conor, he got battered. Conor's just kind of chilling there. And then I'm like, this guy jumped the fence.
What are you doing?
the announcer's like, no. I was like, whoa, this is like WWE. I jumped off the couch.
No, WWE is fake.
No,
this ain't like WWE.
Well, it's like WWE, but real.
Yeah,
right?
well.
So then I'm looking at this, and I'm like, man, it can't get any worse. And then I see this. Somebody jumps in the ring, and then they punch Conor.
Yeah.
And then you can't see it right
now.
No,
you don't see when he gets punched.
And so now there's a pandemonium in the ring, outside the ring, in the ring. I'm like, whoa, I've never seen anything like this.
That was how you got your money's worth.
That was how my money's worth. I mean, I was so excited. I couldn't even go to sleep. I went to bed at 3 a.m. I was still hyped up. Adrenaline was pumping. I'm like, yo, this is good. And so immediately a lot of people were like, oh, I can't believe this happened. This is just bad for the UFC. And I was thinking total opposite.
Right.
I was thinking, Chuck.
We know based on how you feel about Odell.
No.
Yes.
No, but I was like,
you just want to see the car wreck.
I was like, cha-ching. Dana White comes out. He's talking all this stuff this wasn't supposed to happen. He said everything you're supposed to say, but all I heard at the end of that thing was rematch. Apparently, this fight was the top pay-per-view selling fight for UFC ever.
Wow.
And the thing about it was, Conor was the one that sold the fight because Khabib didn't do anything. News conference, he's just sitting there. He's looking.
Conor's purse was $3 million.
His purse was $3 million.
Khabib was $2 million. And Khabib's money is still held.
It's being held because of the fight because they have to figure out fines and so forth. But let me tell you the bigger picture that we're missing. Conor said that he can make upwards of $50 million from the pay-per-views. He said, I can make up to 50. And he said, with their calculations, 3 to 3.5 million people purchased the fight. Now, that tells me he learned from Floyd. Because Floyd is the one with the pay-per-view.
Exactly.
Right? After he fights Floyd, he figured it out. So they said that's unheard of for somebody like that to make $50 million. And Khabib, I think, can stand to get they say he gets a portion also. But
so what are you talking about? Taking it away from UFC?
No. He gets the pay-per-views. Some type of way in the contracts, he's got some rights to the pay-per-views and the numbers that are sold. So now he gets not only the purse, which is a lot, because they don't have $2 and $3 million purses in the UFC. You get
Right.
100,000,
Right.
couple 100,000, and that's it.
Right.
So he can walk away with 50 million in his pocket
From this fight?
from just this fight. Some boxers
Well,
don't even make
so
that.
UFC is so when it comes to
Yes, pay-per-views. Just the pay-per-views for him, yeah.
Not even including the purse.
No.
wow.
Nope, not even the
Wow.
purse. They said this was a big...
That's interesting because UFC is famous for having tip-top control, bottom to the top.
Yeah.
You know, on how they set fights, who you fight, how much you get paid,
But
everything. Nobody really gets to be an individual beyond UFC.
But they've never been able to, they've never had a person like Conor McGregor who has like that personality that's transcended, outside of the sport. And he gave himself the opportunity to get these types of deals because of that $100 million deal that he had with Floyd.
Right.
That opened it up. They're like, oh man, you can do whatever you want now.
Right.
If you can guarantee me that you can bring in this number of people and they'll put eyes on this thing.
So one of the problems that was identified when UFC sold,
Uh-huh.
and I think they sold for multiple billions, I believe $2 billion,
Right.
was that they rarely had. It's hard for them to keep a star because of the nature of the sport.
Yeah.
Once you start becoming popular and you lose that edge,
Yeah.
whether it just be a little bit, whether it be instead of you doing 10 hours a day, you do 9.5 because you got to go to an interview.
Yeah.
You will not remain a champion because, someone is going to be able to take you off your perch. And,
Right.
it's happened to UFC star after UFC star after UFC star. But Colin might also see that, and
Conor. Uh-huh.
and based off of the experience with Floyd, now sees the opportunity to carve out a niche for himself, which makes
learned.
perfect sense. I've seen him trying, comparing himself to Ronaldo and trying to say he's got money,
He said it.
and Ronaldo laughed at him.
He said in the next 5 years, he said he should be a billionaire.
Yeah,
And this is not even including like the sponsors and stuff, because Reebok also kicks in some money too. They have to calculate all that stuff. But Khabib, who would even know who he was? Like, I mean, unless you really follow UFC, you don't really pay attention. Who is he? And I was very surprised that the fight happened because everybody's always gracious at the end because the purses are so fat. Like, I mean, he should be thanking Conor. He should be giving him a hug.
I know.
And a kiss. Because Conor set the whole thing up, like the whole throwing chairs at the bus and breaking the window, and he was, and Khabib was offended.
I saw somewhere where he pointed to some of Conor's antics as the reason why him and his camp went berserk after the fight.
Well, they broke, he broke some glass on the bus and some splashed or got into some people's eyes, and they said he said something about it, or somebody
something about his father, or something about his religion,
and but these are all
right. But Conor was marketing.
These are typical playground things to either, number one, get you off your game, or two, market.
And Conor's marketing.
Yes.
Only.
And he did.
You're right.
And you can see at the end, Conor wasn't even trying to fight.
Yeah.
Which actually was in his favor because everybody thinks he's a jerk anyway. And, but like I said, nobody wants to see the Boy Scout. Nobody's going to, 3.5 million people aren't going to buy pay-per-view to see Peyton Manning fight the Pope. Nobody's gonna do that.
That's that premium Pope package.
They want the interesting
you don't know
characters.
About the premium Pope package.
I have no idea.
There's this movie on Netflix. This guy, I can't remember his name, Polish guy in Pennsylvania, eastern Pennsylvania, around that Scranton area or whatever. But he grew this huge following as a polka star. Polka music.
Wow.
Huge following every weekend. Crowds. Boom, boom, boom. And he started to branch out and do other stuff. So he took like people to the Vatican to meet the Pope.
Wow. Okay.
That's how much pull he had. Not to go meet the Pope, but that people believed that they were going to go see the Pope with him.
Wow.
And somehow, some way, he made that happen, but he called it the premium Pope package.
Never knew about the premium Pope package.
Oh yeah, it's a thing. It's real.
Yeah, so Khabib needs to thank you, boy. And then the other thing about Khabib, they said that he might have some issues with his visa. People can press charges, but I kind of feel like that's going to go away if they do the rematch. And Conor said he wants one right away. So I think Conor's not in shape either.